Hi,
Hey, can you hear me?
can you hear me? Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Uh, Yes, I can.
Super.
Good to see you.
Same here. Good to see you. Good to be glad to be here. Excited.
Yeah. Thank you for those who are already joining in. Thank you, Tony. I see Izzy here. Thank you. You're welcome. We'll just wait for more people to log on before we kick off.
All right.
So how's your day been?
It's been
Quite
good. It's been
Saturday?
good. Warm Saturday, I'd say. I think I read
Okay.
somewhere that we have like two weekends of summer left, so this is one of them. So yeah, it was really warm and nice, and really nice weather.
Enjoy while it lasts.
Oh yeah.
You enjoy
Yeah.
while it lasts.
How was yours?
Uh, Good, a bit busy. I was on site till about 2 hours ago. So we have a project ongoing. Delivery is about 2 weeks or 3 weeks time. So working around the clock to try to meet the deadline. Mm,
Nice.
But all in all, we're making good progress. Thank God.
Super.
Yeah, I see more people are joining in. Lady P is in. Hi, Lady P. J6. Onsa is in. Tony is in. You're welcome. Welcome, guys. So we're just waiting a little bit for more people to log on before we kick off. You're welcome. If you are new to this space, this is the Future Design Collaborative Talks. It's part of the programs, it's part of the program that we offer at Future Design Collaborative. So Future Design Talks is just one of its. The Future Design Collaborative is an initiative that we put together. Creative director and founder being architect Bolola Oladipo. She saw a knowledge gap in the industry, and she started to do something about it. And then she invited me along on the journey. And part of what we uh, are determined to do is to try to bridge the gap in terms of knowledge transfer and to make sure that we are having the kind of conversations that can really, really, really make a change in our industry. You know, so we've been practicing for a couple of years. So I think at this stage we've learned a few lessons, and we want to see the future generation. We want to see something better. We want to see better delivery on projects, better spaces, better management. So we are not saying we know it all. In fact, we are here to learn, if anything. So we're here to make sure that there is a conducive space for everyone to chime in, a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of information, and we're all growing and moving forward in the industry. I would have loved to show you some flyers or some demonstrations, but unfortunately, my phone is not old school, but it's acting like an old school phone. But I don't use an iPhone though, so there's some applications I understand that I'm not privy to. So maybe I'll do an iPhone later this year. But I've never really been an iPhone person. But this Ojoro now is making me reconsider that okay, maybe I need to do an iPhone eventually, and then just stop all this. Mm.
Yeah, you
Okay, so we'll be
should,
kicking
you
off
should
very
wait
briefly.
for the
I feel that
16. Yeah, you should
sorry.
wait for the 16. The 16 is, I think the 16 is coming
Oh
out
my
later this year, so you should
God.
probably wait for that
I
to switch. Yeah.
I don't really like all that hype over iPhone Pro Max, iPhone this, iPhone that. Like, please, can we just use a phone that we not just to call and do something or too much hype over iPhone is what I'm trying to say. There's too much hype. But I guess that's all right. I mean, it shows that okay. So I watched a documentary recently. I think somebody went to iPhone office. Was it Reno Mokri or something or someone? I'm not sure. Someone influential in Nigeria. No, it was Leke Alda. Leke Alda went to Apple store with his wife. You know Leke Alda, right?
Yes.
Yeah, he went to Apple store. He went to the Apple store with his wife, and he was gushing about how intricate like the details were in terms of he was trying on the V-Ray glasses, trying some virtual reality gadgets, and then checking out the phones, and it was really wowed by the level of attention that they pay to details. So it was like, this is why Apple is the leading brand in terms of telecommunication devices in the world, that they really, really tick all the boxes. Like, so that culture of excellence, I think it's really inbuilt into the device itself. So that's very nice. So that made me start reconsidering that, okay, maybe there must really be something to to iPhone because Leke Alda said it anyway. Because it's somebody that I really have a lot of respect for. So when he said that, I'm like, oh, okay, okay, okay. Maybe I will consider. I'll try an iPhone soon.
Yeah, no, I think
Okay.
some parallels I can probably draw from the iPhone and Apple's
Yeah.
story, right? To what's relevant for our conversation today is that the iPhone was really a trailblazer device, right? So it started when um, every phone had a keypad, for instance, right? It was
Mhm.
completely different, just came out of nowhere, took over the industry, and I mean they've been at the forefront of innovation ever since, right? So it's really, really a testament to what human ingenuity and what the human mind can
Oh,
do if you put it
absolutely.
at work. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So I think we're going to be kicking off now. I want to say welcome, everybody. Thank you for honoring our invite. Um, my name is Tolulope Adeyi. You know, I'm an architect, an interior architect to be precise, working out of Lagos, Nigeria. Uh, I'm glad for the opportunity to host this particular session. So we're going to be talking about the relevance, that's diversifying our professional portfolio for global relevance. That's what we're going to be talking about right now. In the midst of the JAPA wave, in the midst of a lot of policy review and a lot of things that are going on within the industry, So we're looking at what some of the moves that some designers are already making, and then why it's important to begin to look at diversification, and not just diversification because you want to make more money or you want other sources of income, but specifically diversification for the purpose of global relevance, especially in design. Why is that important? That's what we're going to be looking at in a what's that word now, in a was it top shell or bottom shell? I've lost my train of thought on that one. Okay, so to help us with that, because first of all is a learner, a scholar. So we've gone to talk with somebody, or we've invited a special guest on board today who is going to, I believe, is going to be doing that talk justice, right? So just give me a minute while I pull up your bio, because I want to read it verbatim so that the people at the back can really understand what we're talking about. Okay, just give me a minute. Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, not okay.
Okay, could you hear me before?
Oh yes, yes. You were going to pull up my bio. Can you hear me, Tolu?
Hello, can you hear me, please? I think we lost connection for a little bit. Can everybody hear me? Please wave if you can hear me. I'm trying to be sure because I think I lost connection for a few seconds, and I'm trying to be sure that I'm back online. I can see you all, but I'm not sure you can hear me. I think, okay. Please wave if you can hear me. Okay, wonderful. Okay, okay, we are
Yeah,
back.
I can hear
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome back. I think we lost you for a few seconds.
Oh
Okay. All right. So I was about to read out your bio. Okay. So everyone acted. So I said, permit me. I will still reference you as architect because to me, you'll always be an architect, right? So I'm going to say architect Osawe Abu is a management consultant based in London office of McKinsey, right, and company, where he spends most of his time on strategy, transformation, and implementation topics within the energy sector. Um, Prior to that, he worked as the head of strategic planning and development at a property development company in Lagos, and also as a sales executive at Itex Nigeria, where he helped build the market for fiber cement building boards across the country. Uh, I think that's Niger, right? Let's be specific. Yeah. Then Osawe is also a chartered architect and he holds a BSc and MArch in architecture from the prestigious Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife. He also has an MBA from the Lagos Business School and the Pan-Atlantic University in Lagos, Nigeria. And in his spare time, Osawe enjoys spending quality time with his family and close friends, reading, cooking, and watching football. Welcome. Wow. What what a list. What a career trajectory, right? I mean,
yeah.
because yeah. So you're welcome. Let me give you some time to say hello to everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Please, you have the floor.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Tolu, for that introduction. I think, and it's really, really glad to be here. Excited to see everyone, and really to get into the topic and share from my perspective what I've seen and what I've experienced in my short career so far.
All right. We are really glad to have you. So here's one thing that I've been saying to you, that I keep repeating. So when we're in school now, you know, you if we had done a vote, right? That vote they do, like the most likely to succeed. You were not, you'll have been number one. You will have won that award like 5 times over, right? Because you always seem to come on top in every topic. You're just an excellent student. Let me put it that way. and you had such a mind that was really attractive, and was really, you could think deep and far without being obnoxious, without being egotistic, but you were just an excellent student, and everybody looked forward to say, oh, Osawe, we just knew that Osawe is going to do great things. At the time when we were in school, I wasn't sure I was going to practice either. In fact, I was almost sure I was not going to practice architecture, because I felt like, oh, there were so many people who were so much better than me at it. And I also felt I had other passions and interests that I was likely going to pursue aside from architecture, right? So it's been interesting for me because I felt, oh, if you are that good, then you should be running an architectural firm now. You should be the next, is it CCP, or the next James Cubitt? You should be, doing great things in the architecture and interior design landscape. But so I'm not saying that you've not, I'm not saying that you won't, but you seem to have made some moves strategically that were not quite expected. So this is going to be how I want us to start this, right? Okay, so given that we all expected you to practice, okay, so what motivated you to diversify your portfolio beyond architecture, right? And how did you identify what field or what industry to pursue? Can you shed more light on that, please?
Yeah, thanks, Sulu. I'll start by telling a very short story, right? So when I got, when I moved into consulting, management consulting, I sent a message to I have a WhatsApp group of very close friends. And I sent a message that I've moved into consulting. I'm starting a role as a management consultant at McKinsey. Congratulations around, but one of my friends, I think, who really knows me, said, "That's until you find the next thing to do, right?" Um, something of that something of that in that tone, right? And I think trying to in preparing for this conversation, that came back to me, right? And it's in hindsight, I would say I've always been one who has chased impact, right?
Mhm.
And not necessarily titles or degrees or um, qualifications, right? It's been more of impact for me, and however I can find a path to creating impact. I
Mhm.
think it's something I've always pursued. If I will give another example, is so before I got into IFE, I wrote Jam, my first Jam in 2003, right, and it was with
Okay.
help. So in that Jam, my first choice course was actually chemical engineering, and my second choice course was civil engineering. Why? Because I wanted to work in Nigeria's oil sector at that point, right? I had uncles who were working there and all that. The JAM was says, so I couldn't do anything with it, and I had to write JAM the next year, right? Which I got into Ife. And in between that, some of my uncles came visit, and I tried to understand how it works, right? What do you do when you go to the rig and all that? And I explained it to me, and I was like, no, I can't. This is not what I see for myself, right? The path to the impact was a bit blurry, right, through engineering. So I thought of what else can I do that I can actually express myself, gives me self-expression, and also I can impact society, impact people. And that's how I came across architecture. I met another of my uncles who was an architect. Spoke to him, and I found myself in architecture. So I think that drive for impact has followed me all through the different career switches I've had. And I won't say it's been at the forefront of switching careers, except maybe perhaps the last switch I did. But the first couple of things I did was more, I would say, um, a bit opportunistic, and also just a bit of being um, of things that just sounded interesting.
Okay, that's great. I think there was something that you said that I quickly caught on, that I think is very important for the people at the back to really hear. And you said for you, it's really been about chasing impact rather than titles and qualifications. Now, that's not something you hear every day, because if there's something that we know about Nigeria specifically, is that we are sort of title crazy. The number of certification and stuff you can have in front of your name, the more you kind of you feel like, oh, you've achieved something either in your career. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I think I like the fact that you are talking about being impactful. That's what you put at the prof. So it's a matter of prioritizing, right? So you prioritize impact beyond every other thing. So I think that's a very important thing that most people, when we are thinking about our careers, we're not really thinking in that line. Impact comes later. Impact comes when we are talking about legacy, or okay, I've practiced for a while, I've gained some experience. But to really factor impact in from the beginning in your choices, I think that's something that, it's notable. We should note that. And for professionals that are just starting out, that could be something that could really help. So I mean, thank you for sharing what you just shared in terms of your work. So I know that, yes, because I remember when I was working at an office in Ikeja, we needed some cement board, calci cement board specifically, and then somebody told me, but I worked in Nigeria. I'm like, what? And then I didn't remember reaching out to you at the time, to make inquiries. I can't remember whether I ended up purchasing at the time or not, but I was really curious. So, and I've been curious since then, but I didn't want to ask you because I didn't want to push you on this stuff. Why and how did you end up working in Nigeria? I've always wanted to ask that question.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I think great question. So
Was it
after if
opportunistic? Did you choose it? Did you have an uncle somewhere who says, you know what, I have a job waiting for you?
yes, so it was I didn't have an uncle somewhere waiting. That's one. But I think it was after school, after Ife, I had to serve, right? So and I served in Ekiti, right? I served in Ado Ekiti, and after service, I go back to Lagos. I moved to Lagos. So my professional life, as I would call it, actually started in Ife, right? So I worked closely with architect Egbe in while I was still in undergrad. So worked on a couple of projects. It was sort of like work placement or internship, if you look at it in that manner. But it was experience, right? Because the project, real life projects,
Yeah.
and even though it focused a lot on drawing rather than designing, there was some designing to it, but it was pretty much just producing drawings. But it was some exposure. Um, in my final year, I remember clearly, architect Adunla introduced me to an architect in Lagos, where I actually started working. Immediately I finished BSc. I worked with architect Dario Akonde portfolio for a bit, for a while. That's throughout my masters, I was working with architect Akonde. Then after masters, I had to then go serve, right? So I served in Ekiti, and while I was in Ekiti, did some work with the construction company, Ponti, trying to do something for the government then. Then after that, I came back to Lagos, right? Working at Nigeria, it was pretty much, I think it just happened by, should I say, chance. I went to church, went to church one Sunday, and I met one of my Ife friends, and we got talking after church, and I was like, oh, he has an uncle that works in Nigerite, and they're looking to set up a new unit and all that, looking to expand the market and build the market basically for building boards. And if it's something I would like to do, and they needed an application architect, someone who would have help in applying the product, right? So it wasn't just a trade product, meaning you're selling into the market through distributors, but you're selling to specifiers and all that, right? Okay, and to me that sounded interesting, right? Something I could do. And when I saw the advert, I applied, and I had a couple of interviews. Now, in my final interview, the then marketing director then asked me, can you sell? And I remember clearly my answer then was, it's not something I've done before
Okay.
in terms of selling products to people, but I think I can do it because my training in architecture has given me selling skills. I was like, how so? So I told him, as an architect, I'm meant to sell something very abstract, right? They plan a design, a 3D or whatever it is, and people pay me money for it, right? They
Mhm.
can't feel or touch the building, they can't feel or touch the space, they can live in the space, right? I know now with virtual reality you can push the bounds of what people can see, but at that then it was basically selling paper, and people will pay you for it. So if I can convince people to pay me for lines on a sheet of paper, then I think I can sell physical or tangible products, right? And then they explained to me that, oh, the role for the applications architects, they wanted someone with a bit more experience than I had, but that they were impressed by my interviews and they would want me to join as a salesperson. Pretty much a field sales administrator then, right? Which I felt, yeah, okay, this seems interesting. Let me do this for a bit, right? So when I got into the role, I realized it was selling to the built environment, right? So selling to architects and to specifiers,
Yeah.
contractors, quantity surveyors,
Yeah.
as against selling to trade, which distributors and the likes, right? Which was a bit interesting too. It gave me the opportunity to meet a lot more architects, to yeah, discuss and be at the heart of a lot of projects that were happening in Lagos and in Nigeria at the time. So it was quite fulfilling.
Wow, thank you for answering that question. I mean, I think I feel so much better now. There were some gaps and holes that were in my head, and they've just been filled. I mean, it makes much more sense to me now, really. So if you are just joining us, you're welcome. This is Future Design Collaborative Talks, and I have a special guest here with me, Architect Osawe Abu. I will be discussing in depth, if you may, about the relevance or the importance of diversifying your professional portfolio for global relevance. Okay, so we've been asking a lot of questions. I can see some people already asking questions. I see Lady P says she noticed something that he said being at the right place at the right time. Okay, I caught that too. So yeah. So I mean, from what you just shared, so please just hold up a bit. We'll have a session later where you can ask questions. So let's just hold off on your questions just a little bit, please. You'll have an opportunity to ask him questions directly, but we just have a couple of pre-arranged questions that we want to quickly run through to kind of give us so we can stay on topic and really cover as much as possible within this very short time that we have. So I mean, two takeaways from what you just said now that I noted is you took chances. I mean, and I think that's very important if you're going to succeed as a professional. Period. You have to be willing to take chances. Some things may not sound like what other people may expect you to do or may expect you to be, but you have to be willing to take chances on those things. And the chance you took paid off. In the long run. And I like the fact that you had this robust network of people around you in terms of what you were doing with Architect Ede from school, uh, the firms where you work, your friend in the church who had an uncle. So there's that community around you that you could, that could serve as people that, let me say, God could use to kind of push opportunities your way in that sense, because it said we have just 6 degrees of separation between us and and the top. So somebody knows somebody who knows somebody or who feels you can feel this range, and then so I think that's very important as well. So my next question to you is, can you share some of the challenges? Okay, so fast forward, you worked in Nigeria for a couple of years. You've got your, I mean, before I think you did in Ife, you did your BSc and then your MH at the same time. I think that's what most people did. So after working in Nigeria, then why did you decide to make that? I won't call it. It's not a lateral move now. So more like a what's that? Is it a geometric jump now that that we should say into consulting? And then if you could share for that brief story of how that happened and why that happened, and what were some of the challenges that you faced in the new position that was not, and I don't know if it had something to do with architecture, so you may need to school me, but if it didn't, I mean, what were some of the things you had to overcome, going into that space, if you may. Thank you,
Yeah.
everybody, for joining in.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening in.
Yeah. Thanks, Sulu. So I think I worked at Nigerite, right? At ETEX Nigerite for about 5 years. And in all honesty, I got bored. Right? I got bored of what we were doing. The market for fiber cement boards had been built.
Yeah.
It got to the point where we already had people importing boards. We had the secondary manufacturer come into the market and started
Okay.
producing. I think there are about 3 or 4 different people producing fiber cement boards in Nigeria. So the market was pretty much built. Was built already, and it at that point almost became a regular sales job, right? So it no longer felt. I didn't feel as much fulfillment at that point. So I thought, what else can I do, right, for impact? And so I thought of 2 things. One of it was to go and start a business or start something, right? Wasn't quite sure what it was going to be. The second was to go into politics. Um,
Oh,
yeah, so
that's
this was
interesting.
this thoughts came about in around 2016, 2017, and I'm Edo, right? So I'm Benin. So I spoke to my father then that I would like to get into politics, and he yeah told me it was a good idea to get into it and all that, and yeah, but I should take time to think it through. So around 2018, I then decided, let me take a break, right, from career and really think about what I wanted to do next. And then I stopped and I went to business school, right? So it was while I was in business school, I think the first week of business school, while we were doing orientation, that's when um, they played a presentation. And I was like, oh, we had a careers fair, and different companies came to exhibit. So most of the companies I knew who they were, what they did, right? Then I saw this company called McKinsey and Company. I was a bit curious, right? So what do these people do? So I did a little research and I realized, oh, okay, this is interesting. You work on a lot of different problems, right? Solving problems, and it's not like you're doing one thing for a very long time. There's no monotony to it, which I felt this is something I should try out. And as things will go, I had to do an internship to get a degree in my MBA. And I applied to get an internship at McKinsey in Lagos office, and I got in. And yeah, so that was how I got into McKinsey, and I got in and I was wowed. The work was actually quite interesting. The people were actually quite really, really, really smart people and solving meaningful problems across Africa and across the globe generally. So I think that's that really made me stay in consulting, right? So the dreams of starting the business, yeah, that I pushed a bit further. Politics, yeah, I also had to, should I say, push that also a bit further. Never can tell what will happen in the future, but for now, I think I'm more focused on helping organizations become more productive.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's great.
yeah.
That's great.
I think, yeah. So there's a second part to your question, right? Which is, what
Some
are
of the challenges,
learnings, right?
yeah, some of
Challenges
the
and
others
yeah,
you have to
key
face.
learnings. Yeah. So I would say 3 things, right? I think from both my experiences in sales and even when I moved to even when I moved to property development and even before consulting, right? So it was one of it is you may feel the need to prove yourself, right?
Right.
And it doesn't matter what level you move. All right. So when I moved first from architecture into sales, I shared the story of how I told the then marketing director of how I could sell. I had to convince him, and that was in the end, right? So even when I joined the team for the first 6 months, or no, for the first 3 4 months, I hadn't brought in any meaningful project. I was just making presentations, talking to architects, talking to specifiers and all that, right? Of building boards, right?
Mm.
I remember a meeting I had, a time I just went into his office then, and I told him I wanted like 5 minutes of his time, and he was like, "Yeah, what's up? What's happening?" And I told him that this is what I'm doing, right? And but it doesn't seem like I'm yielding any fruit yet.
Okay.
And he gave me some really nice words of encouragement to just keep doing what I'm doing, keep being focused, and it will happen, right? As long as you're doing the right things, then it will
Mm.
come, right? So I kept doing that, and yeah, as things to have it, my sales career wasn't a bad one. It was actually a very good one. Same thing happened when I moved into consulting, right? I didn't have any business background, right? That's except for the fact that I
Mm-hmm.
did an MBA and all that, right? So um, there's that pressure that you may need. One might feel you might feel the pressure to constantly prove yourself, right?
Mm.
There may be doubts from others, thinking, "Oh, who's this person? Oh, on paper, it doesn't seem like you can do this job, right?" But it's something
Right.
you may need to then work the go the extra mile to actually prove it. That's the first. The other thing is, I know people who switched careers, and similar to having to prove yourself, you may need to start from a lower level, right? I generally believe there are no mates in life, right? So I don't see strata when I say things, and it sounds a bit strange, but I really don't see it. But what it means is what I'm trying to say is if you switch from one particular sector where you built a number of years of experience into another one, there may be the need to start at a lower
Yeah.
level than you would expect, right? So I think one having an open mind, one of curiosity and one for learning and believing in yourself.
Okay.
I think those are just temporary things. You can start at whatever level, and once you prove yourself, once you show what you're capable of doing, then I mean the sky is your limit, and you can fly, right? And the third thing I would say is switching careers may actually require you to go back to school, right? Or get some certifications or some qualifications, right?
Mm.
I know I spoke earlier that I really don't, I prefer impact to qualifications and all that. Yeah, I still do. I do, right? However, I'm also very quite, I also understand that the world also sees value in qualifications. And yes, qualifications also can show some deep expertise in a particular subject matter, right? Which is great, right? And in order to open that door or get a show in, you may need to show on paper that you know what you're talking about. So getting additional qualifications, be it exams, be it certifications, whatever it is, may actually be something that you can use to get a show into a particular sector or whatever it is that you want to do. Yeah.
Oh, great. Great. Thank you. Before I respond to what you just said, I see a couple of people here. Architect Awadisa, I see you. Welcome. Architect Greg, I see you. I think I also see Dr. Tinuke Mudbe. I see you. You're welcome. I can see the active day now that I see quite a number of people joining in. Thank you. Welcome. We are talking today with the architect Osaweobu, the one and only, is here with you. And he has been sharing quite a lot of insight, So what he just said now about qualifications, I think that's key. And I think it doesn't matter what industry you are, the BSc and even sometimes the master's degree is just a starting point. As you grow in your career, you will find out that there are steps or there are hierarchies that you need to, as you grow, you will need more certification to sort of buttress what it is that you already have. So you can't say, oh, I have a BSc and I have a BSc for life. I have an MAT and I have an MAT for life, and then I don't need to do any other certification. So I think if you are looking at how business is done or life is done or career is done in 2024 going onwards, you're not going to go far if you're not adding other forms of learning or knowledge to what if you're not growing in your mind and getting exposed to knowledge. I particularly like the fact that you did an MBA, right? Because um, for I remember at the point when I was in a particular career fix, and I was trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to do? What's the next thing? One of the things that I realized that was frustrating in my career at the time was that as an architect, your mind is trained to approach design a particular way, right? But we didn't really have much experience or much tutelage in terms of what the business of architecture really entails. So a lot of us were struggling in our business. We could design these fantastic buildings, but we couldn't make it profitable, right? So we kind of had to now start taking business classes and business degrees, to kind of really learn in that space. So I think that's really important, really,
Yeah.
especially for architects. Yes, you need. I think even be a business degree should even be fundamental for everyone. It shouldn't really be uh, a particular sect of people. I think at some point we should all get a training in business in one way or another, especially if
Yeah.
you're going
And
to be offering.
I think particularly for architecture, right, and
Yeah,
the field of study. I think part of the part of our education has to do has is history of architecture, right,
yeah,
of European and American architecture mainly, right. And when you read of the works of people like Antonio Gaudi, even Frank
yeah,
Lloyd Wright, and you see the projects they did and all that, they did it at times where the world was not as economic as it is today, right?
yeah,
The focus was not really on bottom lines as it is today, and profitability and sustainability, in financial sustainability
yeah.
as we see today, right? I dare say, right, if not all, Gaudi's projects will not be commissioned today, right?
Mm,
The basilicas he did, I doubt if any individual institution or government would commission Gaudi to design those basilicas today. It's the way the world is now, and
mhm.
everybody is a bit more focused, right? And think about the painting on the roof of the Sistine Chapel that you had about six different masters or so work on, right?
Yeah,
It's not going to happen now just to put a painting, a mural on the roof of a church, right? So the more architects are in tune to how the world works when it comes to finances
yeah,
and the economy and all
yeah.
that, the better you become as an architect, right?
Okay. So before I get to the next question, let me ask you, do you feel fulfilled right now? Are you happy with the choices that you've made so far in your career moves?
Yeah. So personally, this is a bit philosophical, but I don't see regrets, right? I don't think I think life is about choices, right? My name is actually means God asked me to choose. That's what my Benin name means. So life is about choices, and at the end of the day, there are a lot of choices that are neither right or wrong, right? They're just choices, and you have to make one. Um, with where I am today and what I'm doing today, I feel very fulfilled. I feel that I'm part of solving meaningful problems around the world. Right, I'm lucky to be part of a global organization, the number one consulting firm in the world, and solving these problems across different geographies. Right, that's actually moving the needle and helping organizations perform better, helping people helping improve lives, right? So I'm actually fulfilled with where I am today.
Mm,
That being said,
I'm glad.
there's no, there's no, life is short, right? And this is not
Yeah,
probably not the end of my journey, and
of
if there is an
course,
opportunity
of course.
to have more impact and all that, is something I'm also open to.
Good answer. So Akda Bode says, when in reference to what we are talking earlier about business of architecture, right? He says the current university curriculum is actually addressing this business. That's including business classes in the curriculum. And I've heard that, I think particularly IFE and Covenant. I don't know if it's across board, but I know that in the MArch classes they now offer some business courses. So because I remember when I heard it, I was like, oh, it's been a long time coming. Like it's actually important. We had to learn it the hard way, because we were very romantic about our design delivery at the start. Because I remember I worked in an architectural firm, and now I'm a bit embarrassed to say it. With the first firms where I worked in, the highest salary I earned till maybe 2014 was 70K, and I was working my butt off, right? But I was learning a lot, but I stayed in that firm because I was learning a lot, not because I could have gone to any other place. I knew I could do that, but I actually enjoyed what I was learning there. But that was also because at the time I didn't even know how to ask for to be paid my due. I didn't know how to even value my services, up to that point. Because I remember when I finally decided, because at that point I'd been growing and I was even growing in my design niche, and I decided, oh, okay, I think my interest and my gifting is more towards interior design and interior architecture. So when I had that conversation with my boss, who was also more or less like a mentor to me, and I asked him that, okay, I would be willing to start an office within our office, focusing on interiors, at the time. But he didn't take me seriously. You're like, ugh, no. So like, okay, can you increase my salary to this amount? He said no. Okay. I said, okay, fine. So like, okay, then I'm leaving. So, and I remember it was at that point that I made one of the most audacious moves I could make, at the time. I applied just like you did, when you got out of business school, you got to know about McKinsey, who was like the top consulting firm in the world, and then you applied there. That was how I got to know about IO Furniture, right? And then I applied to IO Furniture. I remember that interview. I felt like a fish out of water. We were like seven, all ladies. The interview was rigorous. It was intense. But at the end of that interview, I was the only person that was chosen for that role. And I got a salary that was more than double what I was earning from where I was coming from. So that experience, it really liberated me. And since then, it taught me to, value my services in a different way. And then I also got to, learn some other things. So I think it's really important to
Yeah,
really understand that business angle, that look, we are not, you can't work for free. You've gone through school, you must understand how to leverage your skills. And that is why this topic is important for us, because now we're not even talking about just Nigeria anymore. And technology and AI is making it so that you can't be in Nigeria or anywhere in the world, and you can impact people and affect your world and do business from one particular location, and you can impact the world. So that's how we should be thinking as global designers, as global professionals. And so you must understand those key ingredients, those key things. So I know before we had this meeting, so I asked you a question like, what skills or knowledge, from your perspective, do you think have been most valuable to you? Those traits, those non-technical skills that you got from architecture that have helped you in some of the moves that you've made in your career, right? And what if you can highlight those skills so that some of us or other people can learn from it and know that, oh, okay, there's actually value in some of those skills that you don't even think are valuable, across board. And it doesn't have to be only technical skills. So I think
yeah,
after this, we'll take questions from people because we are fast running out of time.
super. Yes, I think in terms of skills, I'll talk technical skills first, and then there are other non-technical skills, or what I'll term attributes, right? Which I think people should want to develop, right? I think the first thing I talked about was sales, right? Sales
Mm.
is actually a technical skill, and it's something that architecture teaches you, right? So you have to present you do juries, right? You
Yeah,
have to present your designs to lecturers. You have to sell your designs to lecturers. You have to sell your designs to your fellow classmates who come around and say, "Why are you doing this?" and all that, right? So that's pretty much convincing people, persuasion, the power of persuasion, the skills that you require in sales, right? So that's one real crossover skill that you can
the
actually take
power
from
of
architecture
persuasion. Okay, got
into
that.
any other skill, right? Then the second thing I'll talk about technical skills is just your ability to design, right? And here, if we go back to first principles, what is design? What are you trying to do, right? Basically, creating order out of creating
Yeah,
something that's meaningful,
yeah.
creating meaningful order, like Professor Mole would say.
Yeah.
It's um, it starts by understanding there's a problem, right? Somebody
Sorry
has
for
a
cutting you short. Was it Acted Amole that said that creating meaningful order? I thought I came up with that for myself.
no,
I
no,
thought that, that was
Professor
me.
Mole,
Uh,
yeah, it was. Yeah.
I thought that was me.
Yeah, so it's yeah, if you think about design, right, it starts by trying to there's a problem. Your client has a problem. They have
Yeah.
something and they want to transform a space, they want to transform the part of the built environment, and you come in to to make a proposal of how they could do that, right?
Yeah.
And to achieve an end result, right? And if you think of all the steps from brief taking to concept development to even doing some research like understanding the layout of the place, doing your site analysis and whatever
Yeah.
it is you need to do, right? That's research, right? Then you offer some sort of solution,
Yeah.
right? You propose some sort of solution. They're back and forth. You get them to buy in. You get them to buy in. You syndicate your solution and all that. Get it. And it has to get built, right? You then implement it, right? So the entire stages of design of actually creating a solution, right, is problem solving, which is at the heart of what I currently do, right? I solve problems,
Right.
right, for organizations. So it's a similar process, right? How be it more streamlined and more defined,
Yeah.
right, to solving problems for organizations, right? So that's a skill that architecture has helped me with. That was something I've taken from architecture into this, right? Now, one key part of the design process is as an architect, while drawing a line, you can see it in 3D. You can imagine how it will come out, right?
Yeah.
In reality, what it feels when you draw a space and you say, "Oh, this space is going to be 2 meters by 3 meters." You feel it as a designer. You know what the space is going to be. If I'm going to paint this wall red as an interior architect, you know what it looks like. How you get the emotions of being in a room that's painted red, right?
Yeah.
As an interior architect, and that way you're able to also then position yourself for whatever questions might come up, right? And if somebody comes in, oh, why is this room painted red, or why is this ceiling not white,
Yeah.
and all that,
You
you
can
you you
defend it.
you
You have a
yeah, you can
reason.
defend
Yeah.
it, and all this is while you're still on the drawing board,
Yeah.
right? So you already you can push your mind into the future, into what problems will arise in the future, and you're able to sort those problems out while you're still on the drawing board. That's an invaluable skill, right? That
Mm.
I realized most people who are not designers or engineers or they may not have, right? So they're just in the present and in the past and not necessarily able to cast their minds into the future. And I think that's a really really great skill that you can move into problem solving in whatever field you find yourself, right? And I think the third thing I'll talk about technical skills is now the skills to implement, right? Plans are
Yeah.
nice, plans are great, but no client ever comes to an architect just because they want plans. They come because they want spaces transformed. They want a building. They want to renovate something. That's why they come to you, right? So not just because they want fanciful 2D drawings or 3D drawings, right?
Yeah.
They want to actually see it come to reality. So the ability to not just design but also create it's implementation skills, right? And when
Yeah.
you think about it in business and in everything you do, implementation is one hard cookie, is one tough cookie, right? That a lot of people struggle with. It's great to
Uh,
talk. It's great to say this is what you should do and this is what you can do, but actually doing it and building it is where people find challenging. For non-technical skills, I think basic interpersonal skills, right? And I will dwell a lot on communication, right? Your ability to listen. Brief taking is
mm,
something we do, right? Brief
ability.
taking is something
Yeah.
lawyers do, right?
Mm,
And so that ability to actually listen and drill down to what exactly the problem is from what your client tells you, right? It's actually a skill that you can transfer. I have been able to transfer into consulting and other things I've done, right? You can imagine the typical case: a man comes and says, a man who's probably or nearing retirement, and it says he wants a 7 bedroom house or something that looks like a palace and all that. And um, another point you realize while taking the brief, you realize, oh, he lives alone with his spouse, his wife, and he doesn't like having domestic help around. So you begin to wonder, why do you need a 7 bedroom apartment, and you can talk him into revisiting some of his choices. And you may end up finding, oh, what this person really needs is just an illusion of grandeur, just some sense of achievement, right? Rather than having a massive monument that will be tough to maintain at old age. And that ability
mm.
to really drill deep and listen and drill deep into what the problem is something you can take into whatever field you're in, right? And it's actually a really good skill that I think you can transfer.
Wow, thank you. If I could just run through them quickly, because I was taking notes as you were talking. So you first talked about sales, the power of persuasion. That's a very important skill to have. That's a technical skill, but it's important nonetheless. And as architects, it's part of what is kind of it has been ingrained in us. So from what I can hear, from all of these things that you've listed, it means for those really uh, non-physical skills that we need. It's already ingrained in our education, right? So we should be able to transfer them into other fields, into other areas. So you said the power of persuasion. We do juries. I mean, we usually say something, right? That if you can survive Ife, like it seems that all the interviews have gone for post school, some of the committees have been in, some of the environments have been in. People always ask me that you seem to have some kind of stamina. I say, I graduated from Department of Architecture, OUFA. It's not a joke. So I think there was something about that system, that learning, that kind of ingrained something in us, particularly because when it comes to defending your work, it comes with the job, it comes with the 40, right? You have to. And if you had somebody like Mama Ozosona as your juror, or architect Kadiri who will give you a knock or something, it will force you to think and reconsider your choices. So you really have to really think. So for me, I feel like one thing that should be on here that all architects have and should continue to have is critical thinking. Because I feel like that is another skill that you can't do without in life, period. And you can apply it into different areas, right? So you said the power of persuasion. You said problem solving. We are problem solvers as human beings. If you are thinking impact, if you are thinking global relevance, you must be able to solve problems. You can't join in the wave of, oh, Nigeria is bad, Nigeria will never succeed. Like, leave all that, right? What can you do? What can you bring to the table? How can you look at a problem or a situation? How can you provide solutions? Because I feel like if people spend more time thinking about the problem, we'll have less time to complain, because you're so busy trying to come up with a solution. You have less time to be having chit chats and to be pointing fingers and accusations at what's not right. Okay. Then another thing that you said that I think is very, very key. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining for joining back. I'm trying to be as fast as possible so that we don't get cut off again. Some people have a bet that I won't be I, will, I won't be able to talk. I will talk for like 2 hours and it still won't be enough. So I'm trying to. Okay, so I already lost one bet. I've exceeded an hour. That's all right. But I want to make sure that I stay within maybe another 30 minutes or so that we don't drag this for too long. Because, I like to talk, right? When I talk, I talk. I don't talk all the time, but when I talk, I talk. Especially when we're having conversations like this, this is like my area. Okay. So the third thing that you mentioned was implementation. Now, I think that is key. And that it doesn't get a whole lot of attention. And it's quite interesting that you mentioned that. Because while I was practicing, as a woman, for guys who are architects, it's expected that you know what you're doing. But there's a different yardstick for women. You have to prove yourself on a on a higher level up to a certain degree. So the first couple of projects that I did they were not as successful as I thought they were. I almost went into depression. I was so sad. I beat myself up so bad. I was like, I would never succeed in this profession. Like, how am I going to compete? Look at this kind of mistake. Look at this mess up. Now, what I found to my surprise was a lot of those clients came back and referred me for jobs and still called me back to do their job. I'm like, this would not learn their lesson with this first one. And then I found out that it's not easy to start a project and finish. So many people, implementation is a very important skill. Once you can start something,
Yeah.
stay with it to the end. Even if you don't deliver it to the level, if you can stay with it and not run away and not quit, it's a great skill to have in life, period.
I
Great.
doubt I doubt if there's any architect in this room who doesn't see mistakes in all their buildings, right?
Oh,
Every
exactly.
building I design,
Exactly.
whenever I drive past or I look at it, I remember not even my mistake or not necessarily my mistake, could be mistakes from contractors,
Mm-hmm.
right? A window that's not properly aligned, a roof what's it called, the slope that wasn't
Yeah,
properly
yeah,
that wasn't properly taken and all that. So you see
yeah,
these things, and that self-critic, the ability to self-criticize yourself, to critique your own work,
yeah,
is actually something that you can
yeah.
also, that's also quite great. Yeah.
Okay, then finally, you mentioned the interpersonal skills, the ability to listen. This one is very, very important. It's very, very important. I had to learn. I found out that so many times, a, a lot of clients like it. A lot of people like it when you are in their space and you're talking about what you want to do as a designer. So sometimes they throw at you that, okay, so you are the architect. What are you going to do for us? But I always find a way to throw back the question at the client. I'm like, what do you want in your space? This is your home. How do you want how do you want it to feel? How do you want it to look? Said my job here is to use the skills, the tools of design to put all that together. So I learned to listen to my clients. What do you really want? And then I now put it together. But until you said it now, and I'm now realizing just how important that is in terms of you being able to diversify. That if you can listen well, listen properly, you are not likely to go wrong. If you are not jumping ahead or too quick, to show. But if you can really, really listen to what is being asked of you, you'll be able to solve the problem better. So I think those are very, very. The things you shared, they are very, very, very key. They're very, very important because at the time when we were about to start this, when we're thinking of this particular topic, I was thinking, oh, I'm not really okay. So at some point, I feel like, oh, okay, I want to get some particular certification in some areas, but I've not really thought of, oh, I want to relocate to another country, right? And that's the next thing that I want us to talk about, right? I've not thought about, or I'm less inclined to want to pack up my bags and go and settle in another country. I love my country. I love Nigeria. I like what I'm doing here, irrespective of all the challenges and whatever. But yet, when we're talking about global relevance, when we're talking about you delivering excellence or being a person of excellence, what are your thoughts? Do you think you can achieve global relevance anywhere you are? or there's just, if you are that serious about it and really want to make impact, you have to make some moves, and some of it may involve maybe relocating to another country or whatever. Well, what are your thoughts on that for those of us that are here and are still trying to take this seriously?
Yeah, thanks, Tulu, for that. I think I'll start by saying we all have subjective definitions of what impact is, right? What I consider impact will be different from what you consider impact. It will be different from someone born in, say, India, who
Right,
consider impact,
right.
right? And I know I clearly understand their levels to this, right? There's impact within community, impact within society that you belong
Yeah,
to, could
level
be
to impact.
um,
Yeah.
um, national impact or even global impact, right? So I think the most important thing, the most important answer to that question is to truly define what impact means to you, right? And what impact means, and it's personal. There are no right or wrong answers. It's for you, right? And if that's what you, then when you define what impact is, you then say,
Mm,
how can I achieve this, right? And if achieving such impact requires being in other climes, then by all means, right? By all means, achieve it. There are certain, if we speak about the world, the way the world is at the moment, right?
yeah.
The way we've come to meet the world, not like we designed it that way, is there's actually the developed world, the developing world, and largely the developed world, well-developed world, and the developing world, right? If I'll use those two big divides, right?
Mm,
Now there are certain experiences that you get in being in either one, right? So if you're in
mm,
a developed world, there are certain experiences you get. Your definition of what impact means may be a lot different
sure.
from what it is if you were in. Now this is not to say one is right or one is wrong, right? But as an individual, you need to define impact will mean for you in the short time you have on Earth. We all have on Earth, and then go for it, right? Um, yeah, and if achieving what impact is to you is means you need to be in a place where your work is amplified globally, more easier than where you are currently.
Yeah.
Then yeah, please by all means relocate. Right, that's what I'll say with that. Right.
I
But
love
that's not
that
to say
answer. Yeah.
within your space, within your community, within where you are, you still can't create impact. And we can look at Francis Carey,
Yeah.
right? And the last, I think he won the Pritzker last year, right? Most of
Yeah.
the his buildings on display were in Senegal. They're not in one fancy glass and concrete capital
Yeah.
in the world. They were in Senegal. We have this Malian architect. I think that's also doing really nice things
Yeah.
as well. Local traditional architecture. That
Yeah.
being said, those projects need to be funded, right? You need
Yeah.
to get into a space where you have patrons, patrons that can fund you. And if it means going out to get these patrons from
Mm.
wherever they are for you to have impact locally, that's also something that you can explore, right? And this is just an example in architecture and career wise. Yeah.
Well, thank you for that answer. So I think that's our take-home assignment. Is everyone, if you could, go home and reevaluate what does impact mean to you. And I think that's a very key way to look at it, because your life is different from my life and my life is different from your life. And just like you said, how we define impact it differs from person to person, just like we all are going to serve different purposes on this, on this earth. So you sort of like, you have to find what your purpose is and then pursue it with all your heart and all your mind. That's what I took from what you said, because I mean, Corona and I have been talking about Francis Kerr for a while, because I kind of come from that perspective in terms of, I guess now it's giving me more clarity in terms of what my impact definition is, because I see what he's doing. And that was the exact point I made to her. Like, it's not, he didn't have to relocate somewhere, he's doing it within his country, using available materials, he's looking inward. But we were also able to now recognize that he got some additional education and certification, without outside of his country. So you kind of have to find a way to bring everything together to answer the question of what impact you want in this in your field or in life. So I'm going to be taking some questions from our comments. So Aktepola is saying, if you could do this all over again, would you still choose architecture?
That's a good question, right? So
Yeah,
I think with the benefit of hindsight, right? If this is my destination, right? If I'm going to end up in consulting, right? Which I'm
yeah,
not quite certain is my destination yet.
yeah.
But if I know at this point in time I'm going to end up in consulting, I probably will do an easier course like economics
Right.
or accounting or classics, right? That and spend 4 years and go into the world. Now, don't tell any accountant that I said their course is easy. But yeah, I mean, if I could do it again and I knew I was going to end up in consulting, I probably want to do these other things. That's not discounting all the things I mentioned and what the foundation in architecture and how it has helped me across
Yeah,
changing jobs and all that, right? That's not discounting any of that at all.
yeah.
And I don't regret doing architecture. I don't regret it. And who knows, I may end up back in the field, right? And drawing. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's
so
it's.
once an
I
architect,
think
always an architect.
the world the
Yeah,
world is the world is my oyster, and that's how I've chosen to live my life. And yeah, just chasing impact. Yeah.
absolutely. I love that. I love that response. I mean, even if you don't choose architecture, I think architecture will always choose you. Because I think aside from the difficulties of the course and the classes, I got to meet some really wonderful people, in that process who are still friends and partners of mine even till now. So for me, even as much as that process was really rigorous, for the sake of a few key people and a few key things, I would I would do it. I would do it. I would choose architecture. I would choose architecture for the skills that you mentioned, those critical thinking, persuasion, the power of persuasion. Those skills, those thought you know provoking way of looking at life, of looking at things critically. And I would choose architecture because I love order. I love order a lot. I if I like everything having meaning, being well arranged, being in their place. So I think for me, architecture is one niche that kind of fits that for me. I can't imagine any right now any other profession that could adequately really allow me to express that my in that particular idiosyncrasy, because I love to order. So it comes easy with architecture, it's expected. So within that field, I'm not weird, right? I may be weird outside of it, but within that field, I'm home. I feel good, right? So I will choose that. So well, thank you for that answer. Then I have another question. Okay, Akita is saying that no, you will now move to management and accounting. I think he's just joking. He's saying it will switch if it yeah, somebody is asking, is it question time? Yes, it's question time. You can now you can drop your questions and they will be answered. Okay, so I have another question for you here. So it says, how do you intend to pay it forward to the design community back home? Again, put you on the spot.
Oh, that's a real good question. So I think
Hmm.
um, paying it backwards, right? I think in a way what I've been doing a lot, and I'm gonna be very honest here. There's not been a proper coordinated effort to say this is me giving back to the design community. However, I have also been opportunistic in giving back, right? And whenever the need has arisen for me to give back, be it to the department, be it to upcoming architects and all that, right? Be it someone calling to say I need an intern or whatever it is, right? I'm always happy to, if I can, contribute my little quota to those, right? So I think the question about giving back in a very structured manner, right, in a coordinated manner, I think that's something that I need to give some more thoughts to, and hopefully we will be able to do something in a couple of months or years time. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll definitely look forward to what you're able to come up with, and I'm sure we'll find a way to, to support that, and so, if possible, be a part of it. And also, this is a form of giving back that you're doing right now, because there are so many people who have learned a lot and will be learning a lot from this 1 hour, 30 minutes that, that we're spending together. So I think in a way you are already giving back, and I understand it when you say that from that perspective. Okay, so the next question says, okay, so I think you already answered this. Do you think you might still switch career again? So I think you did say that the world is your oyster. You don't think you've gotten to the end of your career yet, and wherever the wind blow it, you'll be ready if necessary to move, right?
Yeah, the way they say, not all who wander are lost, right? So
Yeah,
it's not about. I mean, life is short, right?
yeah,
And yeah, that's one of the things I hold dear, one of the philosophies I hold dear. And
yeah.
if there's an opportunity to go into any other field, then yeah, why not?
Okay, great. So another question, how do you see the future of careers in design evolving, especially with the increasing intersection of design and other industries? So I
Yeah,
guess other industries being with real estate or, some other form of, yeah. So what are your thoughts on that, if you can?
yeah. So I think first of all, I think there are two sides to design, right? There's the scientific side, which is a bit formulaic, right? Um, there's that side, right, which is where I think technology can easily come in to assist or to help increase productivity in that scientific side, right? But
Yeah,
then you have the art side, right? There's design. Design is not just about science, not about putting spaces together and making it look very rigid, right? So the part that speaks to emotions, the
yeah,
part that speaks to human how humans perceive things, right? Which I think is something that is going to be very hard for technology to replicate, right? Um, and all this is within skill, right? In reason for a client who's just interested in whatever it is, a three-bedroom bungalow, for instance, right? And not necessarily the art side, the poetry of design. Yeah, so maybe for such you could have templates that technology can take, right? Um, but I still see a lot of relevance for design going forward, right?
okay,
In terms of intersection with other industries, right? I think one thing we need to understand, even as architects who work in the built environment in buildings, right, is that
yeah,
there's a built environment value chain, right, which
yeah,
starts from somebody deciding I want to create something, I want to alter the environment,
mm-hmm,
right, up onto somebody hands over the keys and says this environment has been altered, right? Now,
yeah,
if you map that value chain, you find out that it usually starts from the developer, the client, or whoever it is that comes up with an idea. I need to do this, right? And they then
mm-hmm,
go into how into the how of it, right? And that means you need to get professionals, get your architects, get your engineers, get your other allied professionals to come up with a scheme for you, and which is then implemented, and eventually you've altered the space,
mm-hmm,
right? That's a value chain. And at times it doesn't end there. You've altered the space. The person who had the initial thought of doing it then says, okay, what do I want to do with this space? I need to push it into the market. I need to rent it
mm-hmm,
out. I need to sell it. I need to do
mm-hmm,
whatever it is to it, right? So the value chain continues as long as people keep using that space, renting it, and all that.
right,
There's still
yeah,
value being generated. So when you map all that out and you situate yourself within that value chain, right? You start to understand that you are not the originator as a designer of that value chain. You're usually not the originator, and you're not going to be
mm-hmm,
the end user. So you're somewhere in the middle of that value chain, right?
mm-hmm,
So even in the built environment, what I'm trying to say is even in the built environment space that we call our
mm,
home, right? We are not the beginning or the end. We are not the alpha or the omega, right? We're a player within that space, right?
right,
we can decide to move to either side, right? We can try to be the ones who originate it or the ones who end it, right? But as long as whatever our contribution is, right, be it our design skills, the ability to interpret thoughts into a scheme and into something that's in reality, as long as that still remains relevant, it doesn't matter whether our profession is being subsumed into another industry,
Right.
right? It really doesn't matter, right? So, for instance, in the UK, I think when it comes to the built environment, some types of buildings that are actually springing up, right, and are hotcake now in the real estate space in the UK are research spaces, research labs,
All right.
bespoke research labs. So
Right.
companies in the life sciences started during COVID. So you have
After
companies
COVID.
in life sciences, for instance,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And people are building all sorts of high-end research spaces, laboratories to test new products. And you have these big pharmaceutical companies around Oxford, Cambridge, and some in London, and I think Manchester as well, are building these high-tech research labs, research spaces, right? And in such an instance, the originator is not your regular property developer.
Mm.
It's your regular property developer plus someone in the life sciences, a scientist. That's the originator, right? In in that entire value chain of this research spaces. So it doesn't matter how interconnected we are with other fields. I think it's even a joy that design will be interconnected with other sectors, right? It's just to ensure that the principles of design, principles of architecture, we hold them there and we do our best to deliver.
So, well, what you're based, well, okay, if I can try to put it all together, what you just said is that we should not feel threatened. We should just be adaptable.
Perfect. Yeah, you see, I talk too
Yeah.
much.
No, no, no. I'm just I'm just trying to put it because this thing here is going to be a textbook, okay? We're going to put it out, and because I mean, there's quite a lot. People go to business schools and mentoring schools and all sorts of business classes or whatever to learn this. You get, and we're just sharing it, off the cuff here at Savia, and those are really the sometimes you ignore them, but they are really the key things, right? That separate the people who really know who they are, what they're doing from those who don't really. I mean, to understand some of these things. And of course, part of my job as a moderator today is to just try to put it all together. And I put it in a way that I understand, right? Because for me, all of that is to say, to look calm down, don't feel threatened, you're doing well, you're good, but be adaptable, right? So that's how I was able to put it together. Okay, let me see if we still have more questions. Interestingly, people are still joining and unjoining. I think I saw a question earlier. Uh, let me let's just scroll. Okay, somebody says, how do you see the rise of artificial intelligence impact the future of design? I think we already spoke to this earlier, but if you could just, maybe the person joined in a little later, please, can you just share briefly on that?
Yeah, thanks. So first off, I would say um, artificial intelligence is real, is here, right? Generative
Right.
AI is here.
Yeah.
And it's still it's here, and I don't think the cookie is out of the jar, and I don't think Pandora's box has been opened, and
Yeah.
it's here to stay. Now that being said, like I mentioned, it's still largely about training models, right? And models being built and trained on some form of data and all that, right? So it's still um, how do I put it? Input and output, right? Remember when we started learning computing then, and they were like garbage in, garbage out, right? So it's still pretty much the same, right? So if you feed your models, you feed your AI models with garbage still comes out at the end of the day, right? Yes. So for the like I mentioned, architecture and design is there are two sides to it, right? There's the scientific side and there's the arts
Yeah.
side, right? For
Yeah.
the science part of it, which could be formulaic, right? Which you could say um, um, a room has to be this size. For instance, this is just me giving examples. It has to have some form of ventilation and yada yada
Mhm.
yada. Those
Mhm.
basic things that are a bit formulaic. Artificial intelligence sense, yes, will come in and will help improve productivity of architects currently, right?
Yeah.
But in terms of the art side to it, right, which is the dance, the emotions, right, that part of it, I think architects will still be super relevant, right, because we're speaking to human emotions, so
Right.
not just things that is scientific or formulaic. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that. I
And
think
yeah, maybe
yeah,
one other
yeah,
quick thing I'd say is
yeah.
the disruption from AI will be at different levels, right? So for your
Sure.
everyday, your regular clients who wants just a regular building that looks like the one down the street, right? So they could do copy and paste, and not someone who really speaking to the art side of architecture and wanting something bespoke and something they could call their forever property or forever home, right? But if you need someone to do a falling water or a what's it called? Uh, London Aquatic Center. I doubt if AI will be able to do that. They can copy paste from
Or the
what's already
prairie house,
existing.
something that personal, something that speaks to to the landscape.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
those kind of projects. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
I get you. Yeah.
yeah.
I think if I could add to that, I mean, I love the fact that you mentioned that the discussion of AI would be at different levels. So for the first FDC talk, we had an architect on, architect Cosimos, and he sort of arrived at the same conclusion because right now he's a master on. He has mastered the use and the art of Mid Journey, which is an AI generative tool, right? And one of the things he said at the heart of it, at the end of the day, the Midjourney uh, software is just a tool of design. It is not design. So as architects, we must still we must keep understand that what these tools are doing, what these AI tools are doing, is that they will help to improve our productivity, like you said. But they will not, before we get to that point of all these sensationalized headlines are saying robots are going to replace us, like let's just calm down. I mean, because let's look into productivity first, how we can be more productivity, and these tools help. I mean, we did a training about, I think, 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, on that main journey, and all of our students really have been turning out. I mean, if you see how their designs have improved using prompt engineering, like you can see clearly that it solves some problems in designing. It's very clear, but you have to give the
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 prompt.
software the
Yes.
prompt. Yes,
Yeah.
you have to put in the prompt, and the quality of your results will depend on what you prompt it to do. So you're not being replaced. It's just helping you to kind of like refocus and rethink how you approach design. Period. But fundamentally, design still remains the same. Let me just quickly use that to say that the first Midjourney training we did was so successful. I particularly enjoy using Midjourney now. It's easier, it's faster. For example, if I have a presentation for a client now, I don't need to go stress myself or stress my architect. I just use Midjourney. We give you a presentation, you like it, then we get to the nitty-gritty of working drawings and all that. So I love it for that. I really, really love it for that. So we have another training, another Midjourney training coming up. So if you were not a part of that first training and you would love to be a part of it, please check in the comment section for the link, or just you check our page later for the link for that training. And what's the what we're not expecting, or what has happened with that training, is that the Nigerian Institute of Architects endorsed that training. So they saw what we were doing, they saw the quality of it and what we were trying to do within the AI space in terms of introducing artificial intelligence into design, and NI endorsed it. And that was a really, really big, big pat on the back for us, because we're not expecting that. We just, okay, let's try this. If it's going to work, we feel passionate about it. And then the NIA body was like, oh, we think you guys are on track, and then we're going to endorse this. So please, we want you to, if you're a designer who is looking to be more productive, you want to make things easier, please go ahead and just sign up for that training. We'll have another one coming up, I think, in September. So check the comment section or check our page after this live, and then you'll be able to sign up. It's not free. Yeah, I Polola said NIA endorsement was a game changer. It really was, wasn't it? it really worked for us. So let me see if we still have any other question. Do we still have any other question? Let me see. I think that would be like, oh, okay. Somebody is asking, like, could you share other fields where architects can thrive, most especially in the diaspora? Like, giving you experience. I mean, you've been outside Nigeria now, at least you have an idea of what obtains. Which other fields do you think as an architect could be like an easier area to? That's a good question because I was going to ask that question as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think two things, right? I'll answer this
Yeah.
question from two perspectives. The first is adjacent sectors, adjacent fields within the value chain, right? You think about the alpha and omega that I mentioned earlier,
Mm,
right? So you could start from being a property developer and you could
mm,
end up being a realtor who actually
mm,
interfaces with the end users, right? So
mm.
across that entire value chain, except those that require some level of specific qualifications and all that, or you going back to school
Like
to start all over again, which
medicine, like
which
switching
no
to
like
do a
no
doctor something.
within the environment, so
Yeah.
things like engineering, like the engineering degrees, which I mean, if you feel like going back to school to do some form of engineering, feel free.
Can't hear you anymore. Okay, guys, let's just wait for Architect Osawe to join back in. In the meantime, I hope this has been value for your time. Please, we have a 10% discount till 26th of August for all those who are interested in the training. Please check the comment section for the link for that training if you are interested. One as many people. I've been having fun with Midjourney. I will soon start posting my works and all that. You see, like I mean, it's like magic, really. But it's just a way to make our work and life easier. Means if you were spending 10 hours designing before, now 3 2 hours, you're done. So it's saving quite a lot of time. Thank you for staying with us till this long. I hope you've gained one or two things. In the coming days, I'll be posting some pointers from this particular talk all over social media using our page. So please, if you forgot any part of it, and then I think we'll make the recording available. It's in the archive, so we should be able to make that available to you so that you can quickly catch up on it. We'll wait for Architect Osawe to come back if he can. I think he had a network disruption, while we were talking. I can see some people saying, great session. Thank you. You really enjoyed it. Thank you. Thank you. Awesome talk. Architect Toyin says, thank you. Somebody says it's been very great. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm glad it was at least value for your time because at this stage, we must think as global ambassadors, of our brand. I was going to ask him about personal branding, what his own take on it was. But outside of that, I think one important, okay, so Actor Sawa he will be joining us shortly. So please don't forget the assignment. I think there was something that he said that I think is key. Let's all go and do that exercise if we've not done it before. What does impact mean to you? What does impact mean to you, right? And how are you going to achieve that? Welcome back, Actor
Yeah,
Sawa.
sorry about
We
that.
love
I
to
had
have
someone on
you.
my door
Yeah.
knocking and
Okay.
I had to attend to the
No
person.
problem. No problem. So we just want you to give your final thoughts anyway. I think we are sort of like at the end. Is there any other thing you want to add? I think you were saying something. You were speaking
Yes,
on
so I was
something
speaking. I was
before
speaking
you set up
to
here.
to the different opportunities, right?
The
As an
different
architect,
opportunities.
what you
Yes,
could
that's
do, right?
correct.
So I think
That's correct.
within the space, right? So there's like within the built environment value chain, you have different things, right?
Mm.
I know people, I know friends of mine who've gone into um, property development, friends
Yeah.
who've gone into facilities management, for
Yeah.
instance.
Yeah.
Um, Contracting, right? Some level of
Right.
contracting, civil contracting, subcontracting, whatever, project management, right? Also have people who've gone into the academia as well, right? So within the built environment space, right? Give me a second, please.
Yeah.
Now, outside of the built environment, right?
Yeah.
Have have people who've gone. I mean, consulting is a field where you don't really need a particular degree, right? At least the consulting where I work on, you need it's pretty much the more diverse, the better, right? The more diverse the the mindset in the room, the better, right? So consulting is one you could get into. I know architects who've also done professional exams in accounting, who are chartered accountants as well, right? ACCAI can, if they want to go that far. The architects in the public sector, people who work for the government, doing all sorts of different things,
Yeah.
procurements, doing things in facility, all the different fields within the built environment in government. But they could also do things like procurement, for instance,
Yeah.
is not really it's a skill that cuts across, right? Built environment and whatnot, right? You have sales and marketing, for instance, right? The skills that you have is something you can explore into sales and marketing. PR, public relations, right, is something you can do. Finance, right? So you can hone your skills into in finance and move into finance, right? So
Finance,
there are a lot
really.
of so there are a lot of different fields. So finance, yes, you can own your skills, understand how it works,
Yeah.
and move into finance now. Now, finance is a bit different from accounting, right? But having an accounting background can help you get into finance, but not necessarily, right? So there are CFOs who do not have accounting backgrounds, right? Chief financial finance officers
Yeah.
who do not have accounting
Yeah.
backgrounds, and yeah, so you can get into finance. Things like trading, right?
Yeah.
Trading doesn't require a specific degree. Trading is finance, right? Really. Uh, um, Things like stockbroking and the others, they don't necessarily require a particular type of qualification, right? But what we've seen is that certain degrees lean to certain professions more, but there's no hard and fast rule that says because you did this, you can't
Yeah.
do this, right? If you apply yourself, do what it takes, you learn, the world is your oyster. There's YouTube, there are a lot of resources on the internet now. There are a lot of people as well that you could reach out to and ask for an easy for guidance or mentorship and even sponsorship, right, into whatever field you want to do, right? But
Yeah.
I think that as long as you don't limit yourself by um, the degree you have
Yeah.
because you studied for it in 4 months or 4 years
Yeah.
or 6 years, I
Yeah.
think if you really apply yourself to whatever field, as long as it's not medicine where you need to go and have this very special path to it, then I think, yeah, you can do whatever it is you want to do.
Wow. Thank you so much. I think this is a very good place to kind of draw the curtain at this time. Apply yourself. Apply yourself. Apply yourself. Let me say it again for the people at the back. There is no shortcut to success. Apply yourself. Apply yourself. Apply yourself. Be adaptable. You know, listen. Have a listening here. Take everything that define what impact means to you. I mean, for me, that is that's very important because you don't need to compare yourself to anybody. And I think somehow with a lot of people migrating out of Nigeria, a lot of it is happening because people are comparing themselves to other people, you know. So it's important for you to define what impact, look at your life overall, what impact do you want to make, and then make choices that pull you and move you in the direction of that impact period. So that will inform your choices, you know. So I think that's very, very key. I've always had a good time talking with you because you have such a broad mind, and not just a broad mind, you have a very deep mind, you know. Uh, you are able to see things far and wide. And I think that is also one of the reasons why you've been able to successfully do the things that you've been able to do, right? Because you have you've been trained either from your home, either from your personal development, either from your schooling to think a certain way. And once you can get yourself to think a certain way, you can produce certain kind of results, So it's been my greatest honor, to have you on board. And I hope that if and when we invite you again, you will honor, because we are looking at doing this on a monthly basis, because we feel like when we continue and begin and keep having meaningful conversations, not just because we want to have an Instagram live. I mean, I've had a lot of I've I've had this idea for years, to do this, but this just feels like, oh, okay, I think it's time to actually do this, because I like to have these kind of conversations in my bedroom, in my living room. I will take somebody like you, and then I'll take you, like how Zachariah was, was it Zachariah? What was the name of that prophet, that leader that went to Jesus in the night? Those kind of moves. I think I want to have it for myself. Do you understand? So that I can apply it, and then I can run with it. But I mean, a lot of people have been telling me, have been telling Architect Poloda that, look, these kind of conversations that you guys are having, other people need to hear. Other people who think and talk like you, or even who think and talk differently, you need to come together. You need to start having these conversations so that we are changing the narrative. There's a lot of false narrative out there. There's a lot of negative talks about what success is, what we should do. So I think if we continue to have this level of conversation, we anyone who is serious, who is thinking of being impactful in their life, in their industry, in their career, they will really have something to really gain from it. So I want to thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for availing us of your time. For all our guests, everyone who has stayed till now, thank you. You are part of the Talk gang. We like to talk. So you have been with us because I believe you've enjoyed the conversation. I believe you've had one or two things. There's been a lot of shout out. Have you been looking at the comments? A lot of people
Oh
have been
yeah, yeah,
shouting you
yeah.
out and be saying hi. Some people are just excited, to have you on board. So thank you. I wish you all the success, in your current position, and we look forward to hearing about more things and more great things. And I believe you will continue to do great things anyway. Do you have any closing remarks? Anything you want to say
Just
before
a big
we
shout
go to
out and
session?
thanks to everybody in the comment section, Bola, my cousin Ege, and Ayobami, I saw you. I think thanks to everyone who's joined. I really appreciate it. Thanks for hearing what I have to say. As you probably know, those who know me personally, I talk a lot. And happy to have gotten this platform. Thanks to the FGC team, Kolola, Tolu, and every one of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, FDC. We'll appreciate your feedback as well. Please, at the end of this session, you can reach out to me, you can reach out to Architect Bolola. If you have any feedback for us, anything you think we need to do better, you need to tweak. Me, as especially after this particular conversation with Architect Otawe, I'm a lifelong learner. I've never claimed to know anything. Like, I'm always ready with my pen and paper. I go with it everywhere. I want to learn, I want to grow, I want to improve. I want to reach my goal, and do everything that I can. And I feel more encouraged after this talk because you said it. Just go for it. You just have to go for it. No excuses. Just keep going for it. Once you can define what impact means to you, then go and get that done. So I will leave it on that note. Thank you so much and have a good evening, everyone.